Well, thanks very much. Marlon Moraes, first of all, you know, last year, I think this PFL journey came as a bit of a surprise because last year you had announced your retirement or your manager had, and then you came back and announced that you were going to enter into the PFL. I'm just curious, after that initial announcement, what changed your mind? What prompted you to come back?
Man, I was living a little rough time with the UFC. I want to restart. I want to get something new, and the PFL just came in the right time. Everything worked out perfect, and made me want to compete again. It made me be back to MMA. That's the most important. You have to be happy where you are, and I'm happy, and I can't wait to keep competing. And this is gonna be my first season, and I'm very excited.
Now, people who have followed your career for a long time know that you were a dominant bantamweight champion in the World Series of Fighting, which was basically the precursor to the PFL. So, how big a factor did that play in that you kind of knew the organization and some of the people involved?
Yeah, man, I had great times with them, and I had a couple losses in a row, and I was living on a rough time with the UFC, and the opportunity came on the right time, and I can't wait to be back in octagon, and be back in a smart cage and show to all these people my worth, and I'm very happy with them, and I'm happy at 45, and I can't wait to compete again.
Now, when you talk about the kind of rough patch with the UFC, was it just the losses? Were there other things going on that had you unhappy?
It's just hard to man. I was in a rough time, and I just need a little push, I just need them to recognize me as a good fighter and a different treatment, but it is what it is. That's what they want. That's how they do business. And I was grateful for the opportunities. But at the end of the day, uh, they want what is good for them, and at some point I wasn't doing what I supposed to. I lost the fights, and that's their decision, to keep me giving me the toughest fights in the division, and that's what we do when you're in the UFC in the top 10. But some other fighters don't get the same treatment, and I asked for so many fights, and so many fighters deny to fight me, and but it is what it is. Life goes. That's all in the past, and I'm looking forward for my next challenge.
Well, your next challenge, like you mentioned, is going to be at featherweight. The PFL doesn't have the bantamweight division. Do you feel that at this point in your career, featherweight is the better option, not having to cut that weight? Or if they had 135, do you think you would have gone back to 135?
I don't know, man. I think I feel great at 45, and I said I don't know. I don't know if I would go to 35, but because now I'm happy at 45, and the training, I have so much more energy. But we never know, maybe if they had the 35, I could make give a try, but I'm happy, and I'm training hard with the guys, that 45 division, and I feel great.
Well, that is good to hear. Good to hear that you're happy. Obviously, you had your PFL debut in November. Didn't go quite the way you had planned. The opponent switch, you wound up with Shema Moraes. What did you learn from that fight?
Man, you don't blink, especially when you are in a fist fight. And that fight was pretty much going my way. And before the fight ends, I probably thought that I had it already, and I got caught. I didn't feel that he was gonna find any way, to beat me inside that fight, and I just stick with the plan, because we want to mix it up, do the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, grappling, and it was working perfect. And so I was taking my time to get him back to my world, to the grappling one, but I got caught in the way, and Unfortunately, I didn't have time enough. I thought the ref was too quick, especially watching the other fights after. And it is what it is. He won. Hats off to him. Moving forward to my next fight.
Well, that is one that I think you might get a chance to even get back during the season. Would a rematch interest you? So you did fight him back in the WSOF. You're 1-1 now. Would that rubber match interest you if you got it later in the series, in the season?
Yeah, of course, that's a fight I want. If that fight is on the table, I will pick definitely.
Well, first up, obviously, Brandon Laugnane. He was a champion last year, so you're getting the champ right out of the gate. Do you like that kind of opportunity, that kind of challenge, getting that first?
Man, since I left where she's a fighting and I went to the UFC, that was never an easy fight. That was never an opponent that I picked. They always gave me the fights. That's another one I'm fighting. In my opinion, one of the top 10 fighters in the world of 145. And Brando's a good fighter, complete fighter, hard challenge. But this is why I'm here, why I'm competing, because I think I can beat anyone and I have the tools. He's a guy that I look up to, the way he fights. I watch a lot of his fights, and I'm excited for this matchup, this challenge, and this is gonna be the best fight of the night, 100%.
You mentioned watching a lot of his fights. Obviously, Brendan was on the Challenger Series, or sorry, the Contender Series for the UFC. Didn't get the contract, and then came all the way to the PFL. Then wins the championship. Is that the kind of fighter that would inspire you? I mean, if you weren't fighting him, you'd kind of be a fan of him.
Definitely, he tried the hardest way to get to the UFC. He fought, and they didn't pick him. He moved to the PFL, and he's doing great things. He had I think that's his third season. The first season he lost. The next one he won the belt. So that's a guy that I look up to, and that's a guy I always want to face.
Absolutely. And when you look at this fight on paper, how do you see this playing out?
Man, that's gonna be an MMA fight. We both can do everything, and let's see inside the smart cage, who's gonna be better, who's gonna be faster, who's gonna touch who first.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. This is going to be a fantastic fight. And obviously, it's the first fight. I mean, you've got a second regular season fight, and then obviously the playoffs, the final going all the way. There's the $1 million waiting at the end of the tournament. Does the tournament format change how you prepare for these fights? Because you have to stay healthy. If you get hurt, you might not make the playoffs. So does it change your approach at all?
That's the only concern. Don't get hurt in a fight. But it's do when you're in a fight, it's do or die. You always give 100%, and we just have to be confident and believe we're gonna be able to fight, and I don't have to cut so much weight. So for me, it's one thing that will stress me less. So I'm prepared. I'm ready to fight 4 times this season. Let's go.
When you look at the prize money here, I know that's probably not the first thing on your mind because it's later on, but for many years it seemed like the UFC was the only place you could make big money, and now Bellator has given out $1 million in their tournaments. The PFL has $1 million for every champion. Earlier in your career, did you ever expect that kind of money would be possible outside of the UFC?
No, man, I come from a poor town, and my mother and my father, their salary was probably $150 a month, $200 a month. So, and when could I expect to look up to $1 million? And it's just amazing. It's good for the fighters. We all have jobs, and we have opportunities to 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 have a family, to have a life, and that's amazing.
Definitely. Well, it's going to be an excellent tournament, excellent season this year. Looking forward to your fight with Brendan Laugnane to start the season. Um, One of your former opponents, though, was recently announced as going into the UFC Hall of Fame, and that's Jose Aldo. And I'm wondering if you can give your reaction to him being entered into the Hall of Fame. And obviously, you fought him at bantamweight, but do you consider him the best featherweight of all time?
Right now, yes, I think he is still the best featherweight of all the time. And I'm a guy that I start fighting and I look up to him. I was 15 or 16, and I went to one of his fights near my town, and I saw him fighting in Mecca Vale Tudo, and I was amazed by his performance, by his striking, and I've seen him growing, reaching WEC, winning WEC, winning UFC, and in my opinion, right now he's the still the best featherweight of all the time. And I look up to Volkanovski as well. I cannot. When you mention the best of all the time, we have to remember how good Volkanovski is and what he's doing right now. So I think Aldo deserve be on the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best fighters all the time.
And now he's entered into boxing. How do you think he'll do in boxing? And is boxing something that would ever interest you?
Yeah, it is. Of course, it's interesting. It's a different competition. It's hard for us, to tell ourselves it's time to stop. Because we always want to compete. But we'll see, man. We'll see what's his goal. But I don't see him doing for a long time. Maybe he's gonna just test himself and see how things go. But I believe Aldo's a smart guy, and man, what he did for the sport was amazing, and we all are big fans of him. But I just think boxing, if you want to box with former kickboxers, former MMA fighters, but it's just really hard to box with boxers, and I hopefully he does well. I wish him the best, but it's not easy to do what they do since they were kids.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned there sometimes it's hard to know when to walk away, when to leave the sport. How are you looking at this stage of your career? For example, if you were to go all the way, win the $1 million, is it tempting to retire off that to go, you know what, I'm going to retire as champ, or would you want to come back and defend it?
I don't know, man, and I'm looking up to this season as a season that I'm gonna give everything I have, and at the end of the year we might see with my family, and I don't know if I have so many years left. I've been giving everything I have for the sport, and I'm gonna give everything I have 2023, and in the end of the year we'll see what we're gonna do.
Well, love to hear it. I really appreciate the effort. Really appreciate your time today. Looking forward to the PFL regular season. You versus Brendan Loughnane. Thanks very much again for the time today. Looking forward to the fight.
Thank you so much, my friend. You have a good day.
You too. Best of luck.